So far, we have focused more on the topic of landscape photography. But when you think of Namibia, you naturally think of wild animals. Today, on our first game drive, we will be looking for desert elephants. In this episode of the Color Class Namibia, you'll find out whether we have found them and how best to photograph them. In the meantime, we drove further north and arrived in Damaralandā. Here we set up our base in Camp Kipwe. There is a good chance of finding the famous desert elephants in the nearby riverbed of the Abohuab dry river. After more than an hour of searching, we are lucky to find a group of elephants.
The animals in Africa are, of course, one of the items on every photographer's agenda. Wildlife photography is one of the reasons why many photographers come to Africa. And what is important when it comes to wildlife photography? One thing is very important. I always tell my workshop participants at the beginning of each trip, it's not a zoo. What we see is extremely dependent on our luck. It is very difficult to plan something like this in advance. A little luck and patience are the two things that are extremely important for wildlife photographers. If you look at National Geographic photographers, they often stay at a spot for days to get a single picture of a specific animal. We usually do not have that luxury when we are on a tour. That's why we want to give you a few tips on how you can approach the topic to get cool pictures. In addition to luck and patience, what is also important is speed and flexibility. Often there is only a very short moment when an animal is perfectly in position or when it is visible at all. Some shy animals vanish when you approach them with the safari truck. That means I have to be able to react quickly. That's why I have two cameras with me. One camera is equipped with the 24-7T for animals that come a little closer to the safari car, and then a 100-400. This, of course, is for all animals that are a little further away. Because of the two bodies, I don't have to change lenses and can react much faster and more flexibly. I take photos with Sony lenses and have the new Alpha 7R Mark IV with me. What is the huge advantage? The IAF. It is not only for people, but also for animals with the latest generation of Sony cameras. And it really works. I have already tested it extensively today. Elephants, giraffes, the IAF recognized perfectly the eye of the animal, which is, of course, a big help for wildlife photographers. On the subject of cars again, you travel mostly in open land cruisers. Space is limited, therefore limit your equipment. And you can't move around much either. That means a tripod will be of no use. You cannot set up a tripod. That is why you should use short shutter speeds. I usually start from 1,000th. I don't go slower, just to be sure that your shot shows no motion blur because the car is moving or your fellow travelers are moving. Then the whole car is shaking. I try to get 2,000th or at least 1,000th. I'd rather push the ISO sensitivity a bit higher. The modern cameras hardly produce any noise at all in the low ISO sensitivities, and therefore I prefer the ISO a bit higher to get short shutter speeds. Usually one of the most important things is taking pictures at eye level. This is mostly not possible in the safari vehicle because you're not allowed to get out of it. But if you can, and if there is space next to you, crouch down. Go as low as possible to get the lowest possible position, because this looks simply more beautiful in the pictures. Let me summarize again. Patience. We cannot influence our luck. Let's hope that we have it. The equipment must be as small and light as possible. If possible, two bodies with two zoom lenses, a 24-70 and a 100-400, or something similar to cover a large area. Choose short shutter speeds, a 1,000th, better 2,000th upward. Better go up with the ISO sensitivity. And if you take these tips to heart, it should be easy to get cool animal shots in the can. And I'm trying the same thing now. That means we're going on the next safari, and you can see some pictures.